Welcome back to Slanted Chalk, where dads talk about what it really takes to raise junior athletes. And today's episode is one a lot of sports parents have been asking about. We usually hear from parents, but today we're flipping the script. We got two guests who live on both sides of the field. They're not just parents of athletes, they're also high level coaches in competitive youth soccer. And that perspective is rare because what coaches see on the sideline, in showcases, in recruiting environments, and in team development is very different from what parents think is happening. If you're a sports parent navigating club sports, development versus exposure, playing time, showcases, or the pressure of recruiting season, this conversation is going to hit home. Let's get into it. Gentlemen, thanks for joining today. I always have parents on and we always talk about, being a parent of a high level athlete and what the parents' role is. So this is the first. What I wanted to do is bring both of you guys are parents, but you're also high level coaches as well. So if you can do this, Chris, why don't you just take a second, introduce yourself, what level you coach and why you got into coaching and then why you got into girls coaching. And then Doug, I'd like for you to do the same.
Man, you put me on the hot seat right
Of
away.
course. That's how we do it.
I mean, I've coached at various levels. I was at West Valley College, De Anza College, went to the Final Four with both schools, part of the ODP development program, and now I currently coach at Santa Clara Sporting, part of the Girls Academy staff. So I have two teams. We have 6 teams in the Girls GA, and I have 2 out of the 6. Funny story, I got into coaching girls through ODP. As most young coaches, and I was starting to make decent money at it, and I was like, man, I'd eventually like to coach college or maybe pro. And so one of my mentors said, well, if you only coach boys, you're going to limit yourself to only, coaching boys in college or men in college and things like that. So I started coaching girls ODP so I could go to both avenues. So most coaches, start out coaching either, men or women or boys or girls, and they stick through that through their whole journey. But I was kind of blessed. I was able to do both. And then once they found out I was kind of decent at coaching girls and stuff, I've been with them ever since. But I actually started out coaching high school, boys and club boys.
Interesting.
And then I just kind of fell in love with it. You get a different connection when you coach girls than boys and stuff like that. And the connection is a little bit better. It's more team oriented, which I've grown to enjoy. I think back to my old playing days, and we didn't do a lot of team building stuff. And soccer was a little bit different. You tend to play with guys that you went to school with and things like that. But girls, you just do more activities outside, and the chemistry is a little bit better. And so I just kind of fell in love with it and stayed with it ever since.
What about you, Doug? Coach Doug.
Man, most people know my story already. Been coaching for a long time. Started with boys. Started with my son when he's now 20. He'll be 27 in just a couple days. So started with him very, very young. Love coaching. Started coaching because I saw the coaches out there who were taking charge of some of these teams, and I thought, man, if anybody's gonna screw my child up, it's gonna be me. So uh, that's why I started. Anyways, I'm coaching girls now. Obviously, long story short, my daughter was coming out of recreation soccer. She was, I think, 6, 7 years old. She was ready to go to the next level and play competitive soccer. With that being said, I sought a club in order to bring a team. That's basically what I wanted to do. There were clubs that required me to be a paid coach, so I'd have to go through that hiring process. I don't do this for the money. Uh, I have my own career, which keeps me busy, and that's why I haven't been on Slanted Chalk as much as I would love to. But um, you know, we started a club. We joined a club. Had no girls teams. Started the program. First year we started with 2 girls teams, so it was pretty cool. The club had 4. I think they had 7 boys teams and 2 girls teams. Now I think we're at 8 girls teams now,
Holy cow.
and Yeah, I can't even tell you how many boys teams we have right now. So we were a small club. We still are a small club in comparison to Sporting and MVLA. You know, all you guys know the big guys. Anyways,
Right.
Yeah.
um, that's why I'm here. I'm still a volunteer. You know, I love coaching. I still play. I would rather play than coach. Um, but I'm here.
So I didn't realize you were still volunteering. I mean, you have what, four girls teams under you. So more of a director of coaching and then still a volunteer. Man, you have a lot of time on your hands for sure. Or let me rephrase that. You have no time on your hands.
I got too many hobbies.
Chris, that was funny. You mentioned that. You said sporting. I used to play for sporting. I used to play for the sporting men's team. Actually, both Duck and I did.
Mhm.
Played for sporting men's teams. And then you talked about ODP.
Yep.
And that's kind of funny because the guy who used to run ODP when I was growing up was actually the coach of Deanza. Running Deanza, was it Kuwant Singh?
Cool
You
one.
remember him?
Oh yeah, I
And I
just saw him a
remember,
couple weeks ago.
so I used to play for him from ODP. And then when I played at Hartnell Junior College and beat Deanza with my goal, all of a sudden
Ooh.
my playing time started going down from ODP. That's not political, is it?
Oh no, not at all. Not at all.
He wasn't mad.
He wasn't mad. It's funny
Nah,
because actually Duck was in attendance that day too.
I
Oh,
was. I was watching that game.
oh my
So
goodness.
that was actually kind of funny. So going back to the whole coaching, right, Duck? You mentioned, and I think this was a hot topic, especially from parents, right? Is when they're trying to find a coach, they're,
Hmm.
I guess it all comes down to age specific, right? At a certain age, you look for a coach that's more developmental. And then when you get to another age, and then you look for a team at the highest level they can possibly compete in. And then from there, you look for a team that can do your showcasing. And then from there, recruiting, so on and so forth. So, from your philosophy, where you guys are at now, and what division you're coaching right now, what's the most important aspect?
You know, we're getting a little bit older. The girls that I coach are starting to get a little bit older. So we only have a couple more years. Actually, we have a year and one season left of soccer before they move on to hopefully bigger and better things in college and whatnot. To be honest with you, we're working on trying to just enjoy the hell of ourselves right now. We want to go out
Hmm.
there, we want to play good soccer. We work on more than anything else. We still work on technical abilities for these girls. We're still working on the stupid little fundamentals that everybody should be working on. But we're in a phase where we're knocking the ball around pretty well now. So we're doing our best to try and keep possession of the ball. I think what we work on is number one, just having fun still. We got to continue to just enjoy it. If it ain't fun, what the hell are they coming out for? Team chemistry and trying to make the game look beautiful and easy.
What about you, Chris? What do you focus on mostly from a development standpoint, a team standpoint, so that you can win, or or all of the above?
All the above. I mean, I typically, when I think of club soccer or soccer in general, I break it into four levels. I think the younger ages is you're in rec and you want to make sure the kids have a lot of fun. Enjoy the halftime, the oranges at halftime, and the snacks after the games, and the little spirit tunnels that they all do. And then that next phase, I think, is around that 10 to 12, that technical age where your ball mastery. You're trying to have the kids fall in love with the ball. And so I'm at phase two, and then I'm between phase 3 and 4 with some of my teams. So I have kids that are 2014 that are U11, excuse me, U12, and then I have kids that are U13, and then I have the U18 and 19. So it's a good blend. So with the younger teams, they're still in that age where we want them to have fun. For example, last night I ran a practice. It was a 2 hour practice. About an hour and a half of it was just technical stuff. Cones on the end, 3 cones in the middle, dribbling, little body feints, and then we did some to 2 gates or 2 goals, some transitional stuff. So we try to make it as fun, but also they're starting to learn. Hey, you gotta work, because the kids, even though they're that young, they're starting to they're jumping from that stage of I like soccer to I love soccer. And some of the kids, they like soccer, right? And if you push them too hard, they'll kind of break. But then you also have a group of kids that and are already starting to identify that they want to play at a high level. They're starting to go to Stanford games and Santa Clara games and stuff like that. And so we spend majority of the practices on technical stuff and just getting them to be clean with both feet. We want the training environment to be super intense. We want them to be competitive. And, we don't, I never at that age talk about winning and losing. It's just being consistent and just building good habits. And then with the older team, it's all about winning, and you got to win and
Okay.
compete, and you're trying to showcase yourself to college coaches. So like we just came back from Surf Cup. We flew out to San Diego on Thanksgiving Day. And then we had one game Friday, one game Saturday, one game Sunday. Friday, we had maybe about 30 coaches at the game, played a solid team. Saturday, we played San Diego Surf, which is one of the top teams in the country. And so we had more college coaches there. And then Sunday, we had like an 8 a.m. game. I think we had a handful of college coaches, but that is all about winning. We're trying to make the GA playoffs and then just getting seen, getting recruited. And then, a little bit of just, hey, take care of your body. So when you do have these opportunities, you're not broken down, because at that age, like, a hammy can take you 6 weeks and put you on the bench, and so it's just it's a little bit different. When you're
Yeah.
training younger kids, you're trying to mold their mind still. And then with the older ones, you're still molding it. But now it's like you see the finish line. So this is what you've been working your whole life. So just make sure you put your best foot forward.
So here's the biggest difference. So the biggest difference between Chris and I is that Chris is in an area which he'll make he can make one team, but out of that one team, he gets to select that one team from 80 girls, maybe more sometimes. Whereas me, I'm down here and we're scrapping for girls. Earlier, Chris and
Right.
I were talking about one of his girls had moved. She joined my team. So, those gems, those are the things that we get down here where we're a small club. I'm building a team of 16, 17 girls out of 16, 17 girls.
Right.
Gotcha.
So
So
it's
you're doing more coaching there. So I would imagine you're doing more development. Whereas Chris, I would say your girls, I don't want to say one's lower than the other, but I'm going to just say it. So your girls are going to be better players. So with that being said, because you just mentioned you went down to Surf Cup and a lot of coaches are out there. So you're at that phase of recruiting and eyeballs on players. So then now your mindset has to be different. Your philosophy has to be different for your team. Does that impact the style of coaching you do? I don't know how else to put this because I can see parents being crazy about this. Are you trying to play at a style that best fits your team? Or are you trying to play at a style that best fits college for recruiting?
That's a good question. I mean, I have a philosophy as a coach. I think my job as a coach is to have the players see the game through my eyes. And I think the best coaches in any sport, they're really teachers, and they're able to have a picture and then have it painted extremely clear for the kids. And so we try to play really good soccer. We knock the ball around and things like that. I think showcases like surf are tough because we also want to win, but then I also need to showcase kids. And so at a showcase, I got to divide the playing time up a little bit more equally than I
Oh,
would. So
interesting.
if we have a league game, um, I'm going to play to win 100%, and you may only get 10 minutes, a half, or maybe 10 minutes a game. At a showcase, it's a thin line between you still want to win, like I want to beat Surf, right? And I want to showcase the kids. And as soon as I put like one kid in, and I knew I had to give him time, we gave up a goal right away. And you could see the morale of the team went down. So
Ooh, that's tough.
it's a hard thing to juggle, right? Because we're down here, I don't see the cost individually because the team pays for mine, but I imagine, I see how much I pay for the hotels, the food, the rental car, the airplane. And, and a parent's going to say, look, I spent all this money and for my kid to be showcased and they're on the bench. How are they getting showcased? So it's really tough to juggle. The other hard thing, and we may talk about this later depending on your topics, is like you don't know who's showing up, right? So you might have your school show up and you're not even in that half, or you just came out. So I'll have a parent like send a text to the manager going, hey, such and such school is here to see my kid, put them back in. Well, I can't really put them back in because I got to let the other kid get on the field and get their time. So it becomes really, really, really tough to juggle. I mean, the older ages are a lot harder to manage. Because could you imagine, Andy, you're playing at UCLA and you send them an email, hey, UCLA, I'm playing on field one at 2 o'clock, and they'll go, hey, we'll come out, and you start. Well, UCLA's not there. 30 minutes in or 20 minutes in, I got to put the other forward in, and now UCLA shows up. They put their seat down, and you're like, oh my God. And of course, your parents are looking at every coach on the sideline because they all sit in a certain area. So they stand and they're all walking around with their sweatshirts on with their school stuff. And then you're like, oh crap, UCLA's here and my kid's on the bench. So you panic, right? You send the manager who's on the sidelines a text, hey, UCLA's here. Well, the other parent that's kids now in the game, they're wanting to get showcased. So it gets really crazy. It gets super crazy.
That is crazy. So, do you get that a lot? I mean, that's not something I even thought happened. To be, I mean, I know crazy parents are like that, but I didn't think they would go to those lengths. But I guess I probably would do that too. So, how do you handle that? Do you
You
have
you know,
conversations before or after?
it doesn't here's the thing. When you have a conversation regardless of what goes on the team, everyone can digest it because their emotions aren't involved because they're not in the situation.
Right.
And but once they get in that situation and they see that coach there, like I had a parent, we were in North Carolina and a kid hadn't been playing well, hadn't been hustling, so I didn't start him. Well, their school was out there to watch them play and this kid didn't start. And the parent and the kid both flipped out after the game, and the kid's been on the team for like since I started the team. Really mellow guy, but he kind of lost it, and it got to the point where I was like, dude, one more word out of you, I'm gonna cut you. Like in North Carolina, I'm gonna drop your kid from the team because you're so out of line. And so it happens. It gets intense when it comes to people's kids. And I'm a parent too. Duck's a parent. You're a parent. When you see like your kid get emotional and stuff like that, it kind of pulls on your emotional cords. And then Mama Bear or Papa Bear steps in, and yeah, it can get out of hand really quick. I mean, there's all kind of horror stories about things happening in the parking lots at these important games. You've seen kids get hit, slap, punched by their parents because they didn't play well and that school was there. And you've seen parents and coaches get into it. There's a nasty side to the club sports because once you get in the recruiting, it's 8 to 10 years of everything, and it all happens on this weekend. And if you don't show up, you don't know when UCLA is going to come
Yeah.
back out. So you're like, man, I got this one opportunity. So it gets really intense.
That was a powerful and honest conversation, and honestly, one every sports parent needs to hear. Because what stood out most wasn't just tactics, winning, or recruiting, it was perspective. The reminder that development isn't linear, that fun still matters, even at higher levels, and that behind every lineup decision, showcase rotation, or training focus, there's a balancing act that coaches are constantly managing. As parents, especially those of high level athletes, it's easy to focus on playing time, exposure, and outcomes. But today's discussion showed the bigger picture: team chemistry, long term growth, emotional maturity, and making sure kids still love the game after years and years of pressure. And if you're in that recruiting phase where showcases, college coaches, and visibility start to dominate the conversation, this episode is your reality check. It's not just about talent, it's about timing, preparation, mindset, and yes, sometimes uncontrollable factors. From one sports parent to another, the takeaway is simple: trust the process, communicate with your coaches, and remember why your child started playing in the first place. If this episode resonated with you as a parent of an elite or aspiring athlete, make sure to subscribe, share it with another sports family, and follow Slanted Chalk, where dads have real conversation most people are afraid to have. Remember, you can't win it more.